And it looks like we have ignition here. Okay, welcome everybody, and it's great to have a whole load of F&B specialists join us. I hope today's seminar will be of some use for you and some information. We're calling it a lunchtime seminar. Hopefully in the future, it would be lovely to actually host it here at the university, and we can actually have some lunch to go with it. First of all, my thanks to IAgrE and to Daniel, who's chairman of the Food and Drink Special Interest Group, for giving us the time and helping us out with this setup process today. And bear with us, there's three of us. There's myself, Joe Gould, and Nicola Moules from the KTP team. We're all relatively new to Zoom, so we might have one or two problem areas as we try and present. But effectively, what we're here today is to actually look at the food and innovation opportunities that can actually happen for you, for your industry, in conjunction with the University of Nottingham. Hopefully this will be published shortly. It was the paper we actually used for the LinkedIn advert. It's a paper that I jointly wrote with Daniel, our host from IAgrE, and it's looking at the industry, re-engineering the industry. Okay, we originally called it Quo Vadis, but we realized not everybody understood the Latin bit. But where do we go from here? And that's looking at various areas, including nutrition, water, raw materials, responsible consumption, and of course, sustainable cities, because that's what it's going to be all about as we go forward with food. And in a nutshell, what we're after today is really to ask you, as industry, how can we help you? Okay, think about food, okay? The specialists reckon it's taken us the best part of 2 million years to evolve and develop. And of course, if you think about it further, none of it could have been achieved without food. What worries me, and perhaps even the industry going forward, is where we're actually going from here. But if you think about food and food production, not only has it been the source of fuel for us developing, it also defines our societies. I mean, think back 100 years ago, hunter-gatherers, the agricultural societies, and the industrial societies as developed with the Industrial Revolution. It has all evolved and been developed around food. Again, think of the Industrial Revolution. You know, Nicholas Arpart, the father of preserving food in 1809, invented the heat concept for heating food. It was in 1813 when Brian Duncan, a Northumberland engineer, actually opened the first canning factory. Since then, different preservation processes right up to where we're at the moment, where you're looking at plasma technology, because you're also looking at high pressure processing and pulsed electric fields. Plasma technology has some amazing potential because you're kind of looking at a fourth state of matter that can actually kill microbial activity. So it's one to watch out for the future. You know, think again of those big companies that evolved and developed during the Industrial Revolution, all part and parcel of the Industrial Revolution. We've seen the growth of industrial financiers. We've seen the birth of management and such masters of the universe like Taylor, Michael Porter, and basically all would have a disproportionate effect on industry and indeed the food industry going forward. But we stop here and just think about it from a change element or a change perspective. And it was Heraclitus 2,500 years ago that coined that sentence: the only thing that is constant is change. And if we take that a little bit further, again, think of the Industrial Revolution. I mean, basically it came to an end when we realized that the entire model was based on two false assumptions. And that was one, that there were limitless resources in nature, and the other one, that nature has an infinite capacity to absorb the world's waste. Of course, we know it doesn't now. And again, 21st century, it's no longer just about profit. And although there's been sizable productivity and development in the food industry over the past 50 years, those key elements of environmental and social are now taken over from the original profit or profit motivation that we went through. So business is changing. You know, you're looking at energy and oil, you're looking at carbon taxes, information age, Google. I wonder how many listening to you are lucky enough to be under the age of 21. Think about it. Google only celebrated their 21st birthday 3 months ago. Social media, there's all of these things changing, happening. If you look at it from a food processing perspective, as we were saying earlier, ethical sourcing, sustainability and traceability. And of course, you're looking at innovation and consumer demands that are changing the food industry as we go forward. Some research right across 60 countries, I think it's 30 participants, and people are looking for a different approach from food. Health and well-being being one of them, responsible living. And of course, we're all living with busy lives, but the idea here is keeping it real. There are other global forces of change also coming. Rise of lifestyle diseases. I mean, a recent survey in terms of costs, again, from a sustainability perspective, is saying that for every £1 of food that we put on a plate, it's actually costing us £2 from a sustainability perspective. So again, can we carry on the way we're going? Think of smaller household sizes and change in family structures, younger population, mass scale urbanization. They estimate by 2050, somewhere around 85 to 90% of the people will be living in an urban environment. So change is constant. And a favorite quote of mine, if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less. When you look at the lifestyle trends, people are looking for different things from food. You know, free from, clean, simple, sustainable. And as we go forward in the future, where before the food industry was basically run on the basis of price, taste to a degree, and convenience, now we're also adding those elements: health and wellness, safety, social impact, experience. But I think more importantly, with the growth in social media, we're looking at transparency. Everything we do, everything that's done is instantly available on whatever platform. And that's changing the industry. You know, where before we were looking at traditional consumer demand and you were looking at traditional big food. Traditional big food over the past 4 or 5 years has actually seen a dip in sales for the first time in 50 years. They're looking at sales being down roughly about 3 to 4%. Before, small regional ethnic brands never got a look in. Today, that's changing. You're looking at new purchase drivers and an evolving market where niche brands are coming into their own. And traditional big food, well, will it make up the new normal? We don't know. We'll see how things develop. The point to really bear in mind is that change is happening. And I think what needs to be emphasized is how rapidly that change is happening. Think about population growth, okay? For hundreds of years, it was linear. Past 2 centuries, it's now become exponential. You know, we were talking about growth of social media, and we were talking about the development of the electronics business and what we know as computers. I mean, this is a picture from 1956 of what a 5 meg hard drive looked like. Think about it. Your RAM memory in your cell phone today is bigger. You know, the founder of Intel was Gordon Moore, and he predicted in '65 that the numbers of transistors that could be actually fitted on a chip was going to double every 2 years and decrease in price. And think about it, 71, it was 8,000 transistors. 2015, it was 10 billion. Look at it today. That's a 1 terabit micro SD card. And you can see that growth is exponential. So from a business perspective, from a food and business development, How do you manage that change constant? Because you don't know what's coming 10, 15 years. There's no other way of doing it. To us, and this is university, there's only one way of doing it, and that's to embrace it.
Seamus, I don't know if you can hear me, but we've lost the sound on the video.
Sorry. Okay.
If you can,
the works of a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, Seamus, if you can go back a few slides, so I can send you a message in between.
It probably would have been no. You would have had the sound on the video. I think it was just on the microphone. Okay, but let's take it forward. I think in terms of food research science. I mean, this particular slide is kind of a Da Vinci's understanding of, I think it was Moses passing 10 commandments down, the powers that be passing it on down to Moses. I just want to say categorically here that the rendition bears no resemblance whatsoever to either myself, Joe, or Nicola, who's coming later with presentations. But I think it's a good way of actually splitting the difference between food research and science. And if we look at research and science as the what and the why, then process engineering is basically the how of how you achieve that. Faculty of Engineering, we've been around since the 60s. We're on a 300-acre site in University Park. We've got approximately 250 academic staff with 250 contract researchers. We've got 4,000 engineering students, and that's right across the board, undergrad, MSc, and PhDs. overall, as we said, a top 10 engineering faculty in the UK. So what do we do? Well, just sit back, relax, and have a look. Our engineering faculty is, well, it was the first, but it's only the only engineering faculty in the UK to be awarded the Athena Swan Gold Award. And that recognises and celebrates good practices in higher education and research institutions. Indeed, the head of our food, water, waste research team, Dr. Rachel Gomes, she was recognised as one of the top 50 women in engineering sustainability just a few months ago. But what else do we do? Well, from the food, water, waste side, it's advanced processing technologies. We're looking at microwave, dielectric heating, magnetic induction, waste resource management, synthesis of functional materials. You're looking at waste or developing, improving waste with biomass or biopolymers, waste treatment, developing and use of biosource feedstock or catalysts to assist with wastewater treatment systems. Sensors, as we're talking about computers and the development of microchips, etc. You're looking at the application of low-cost sensors. Think of your packing line, think of your automation, think of all the sensors that go together to make that equipment work. Think about being able to harness them, bring them together to actually give you real-time predictive analysis of your plant. You know, we're also looking at discriminating technologies now. Think of sensors, where they can evolve, how they can actually work for you. And of course, heat transfer and mixing modeling. They're all on the engineering side. We're also lucky enough at Nottingham to have extensive facilities in terms of pilot scale labs, not just for teaching, but also for research. We got an incredible suite of analytic equipment. We've also got advanced technologies, looking at energy efficiency, nanotechnology. A recent spin out of that research is a new factory in Nottingham, which is the world's biggest nanotechnology producer on a global scale. Process simulation, the design facility, it's all there. We've also built a new food lab here at University Park. Not quite as good as Sutton Bonington, in the sense that it's not food grade, but we have the food grade lab in Sutton Bonington. It's also why, from a food and beverage perspective, that we've actually looked at pulling our team together in chemical and environmental to create a new MSc program in food process engineering. Indeed, that's how I'm actually here with the University of Nottingham after 35 years experience in the industry. But we're looking at trying to build a new chartered engineer that has, well, confident learners, but more importantly, industrial aware and understanding teamwork and process development techniques, which is critical going forward. When it comes to food, or when it comes to developing future food, Nottingham, as I said, we're #1 in food research, or particularly from a science perspective. But for 50 years, we've always been looking at food and food research. And that has actually led to us being recognized as one of the 6 pillars of excellence for research going forward, with a 200 million commitment to future food research. So if we had to summarize, well, what I was saying about change, and if we had to summarize about technologies going forward, I'm going to summarize it with this short video, and then we'll pass you over to our science colleague. Questions? Or I will stop sharing and maybe pass you back to Daniel prior to us actually looking at our food science side. Daniel?
Yeah, thank you, Seamus. If anyone has questions, please put them down in the chat box on the bottom right. Let's give it a few moments and then we move on.
Just a note for our audience, you know, when we're actually presenting, either myself, Joe to come, we can't see the chat box. So it's only when we stop presenting that we, that we can actually see your questions.
One quite interesting point of your presentation was when you went into the small and regional ethnic brands, because I don't know if you are aware of that, but many of the large brands now try to either buy those small brands in order to actually start generating higher revenues again, or they create sub-branches of their own business that look like these small businesses.
Yeah, indeed, Daniel. And you know, I mean, I've showed it in my presentation there, you know, what we would call big food. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that big food in the entire UK industry only represents about 3% of the food and beverage industry. The other 97% is small, medium enterprises. And that's what drives that 7 billion business.
Okay, yeah. So thank you, Seamus. So our next speaker will be Joanne Gould, also from University of Nottingham, telling us a little bit about innovation projects in food science and agri-tech at Sutton Bonington, which also have a lovely brewery on site. I once had at least a chance to see. Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Is that loaded up? Sorry, it is very strange. I can't see the Zoom anymore.
Joe,
yes,
we can see
100%.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. So, as Daniel said, I'm an assistant professor in food science, and I'm based in the Division of Food, Nutrition and Dietetics. And we're based at the Sutton Bonington campus, which was the old agricultural campus of the University of Nottingham. So this is the team. So there's 4 members of academic staff in this food structure and biomaterials team. So I'm in the bottom left. And we have Dr. Gleb Yakubov, who is an expert in soft matter biomaterials, focusing a lot in starchy, polysaccharide, fibrous materials and sugars, and how they interact with biointerfaces, so oral processing, for example. We have Dr. David Gray, who is an expert in food lipid chemistry and is really interested in valorizing natural components and seeing how we can use them in food products. So not destroying what nature actually provides with us, so oil bodies or chloroplasts, but seeing how we can apply them. And we have Dr. Vincenzo De Bari, who is a real expert. He's got a chemical engineering background, and he's really interested in how we can process food to create the microstructures that we require. And our team sits here, and we have quite a varied, I have summed it up quite succinctly here. We have expertise in extracting or minimally processing ingredients, lots of expertise in characterizing those ingredients and then applying them in food product matrices. And I've put us in the middle, which is probably unfair, but I'm allowed to, because we sit amongst this bigger picture at University of Nottingham. So as Seamus has introduced, we have this future food beacon, and there's a lot of expertise there in food production, and that sits in my head just slightly before us in the supply chain. And then we go forward into consumer sensory and flavour science, but also nutritional sciences. And somewhere in there is our links with Seamus and food processing engineering, as well as Nottingham has this fantastic multidisciplinary ability. So we often work with chemistry, biomolecular sciences, nanotechnology. It's a fantastic environment to solve some of these research products that Seamus introduced. Big developments that we're really excited about in the last couple of years has been this future food beacon. And I guess going more into some of the areas that I'm really interested in, we were able to secure £1 million from that to establish a future protein platform. So that's led by Professor Andy Salter, who's a nutritional biochemist. And that's really looking specifically at how do we secure protein for the future generations from a nutritional, but also for my area in this, how do we apply it in food products? And then another sort of big decision we made at St Bonington was to merge food and nutrition. There's a strong link. So the university supported this merge to really get more things under one roof, as well as our links we have with the wider university. And this is what Seamus alluded to. This is our food processing facility. So this is a food grade environment that we use a lot for teaching, because one of our responsibilities is to train the food scientists of the future in how to work in this sort of environment. We also use it for research, so I have several research students that will use this, but this facility is really also available for industry, particularly small, medium enterprises, to come and access some of our pilot scale equipment. It's probably too broad here to go through every piece of equipment, but I can say we have thermal processing equipment, so we have pasteurization, we have retorts, we have a dairy processing room. So on one of the left-hand pictures, you can see our crystallizer. So that's about a £250,000 investment in our crystallizer, which we use for ice cream, margarine, and some aeration products. We've then got a whole host of bakery equipment, because a lot of the history of Sutton Bonington was in the bakery, and we continue with that. So we have ovens, of course, we have lots of different types of mixers. We also have our twin screw extruder that I'll focus on a bit later on. We have some high pressure equipment, homogenization equipment, and a spray dryer. So quite a vast amount of equipment, all of what I would call pilot scale, 10 kilo sort of sizes. So fantastic opportunity for our students to have exposure to this sort of size manufacture. But I think for industry to be able to do some trials on this sort of middle scale, and some of them go up to higher capacity as some are continuous, it gives that flexibility. And supporting our research in the food processing facility is our biomaterials laboratory. So this is an analytical laboratory where we have a range of analytical pieces of equipment to enable us to understand the molecular changes behind some of those macroscopic engineering changes. So we have a host of rheometers, interfacial techniques, compositional analysis, structural, so DSC, XRD, And then we also have these links with the wider university. So this is a confocal laser scanning microscopy image of probably a legume in the middle, which was taken at our nanotechnology centre at University Park. So a whole host of techniques that enable us to support what we see in the food processing facility. What I want to do is give a bit more of a detailed example of some of the work we do. So this is from my research group on sustainable food processing. And we have a real interest in plant proteins, insect proteins, but also valorizing food waste. And in the middle is this axis we work along. So it's understanding the structure of our raw material, its functionality, how we process it, and of course that then affects functionality and structure, and then how processing affects our product quality. And this is really where our collaborations with engineering come in, because that expertise linked with that molecular understanding enables us to formulate and improve food products. So I mentioned we have a twin screw extruder, and this is located in our food processing facility. And we typically run between 8 and 12 kilos, but I'm told it can run up to 50 kilos. That's great for industry. For research, we're really interested in changing and altering the process and the ingredients to really unpick what's going on. But that's a piece of equipment that I use quite a lot in my research. This is one example of a fundamental piece of work which is supported by the EPSRC. And this is where I'm really trying to understand what is going on with the two major polymers in starch, so amylose and amylopectin. We're using very simple systems, so we are just using starches of varying compositions, and we want to understand how it expands in the extruder. And also we have this custom built popping head, which is a typical process for rice cake manufacture. And as I said, we support that manufacture with our analytical laboratory. So here's some of this history that I talked about. A large amount of our history has been in thermal analysis, and we've spent a lot of money investing in this in the recent years. So we have high temperature RVAs, so we look at how materials are impacted by processing and liken that from the laboratory scale to what happens in the process. We've got differential scanning calorimetry, dynamic mechanical analysis, and we've got a relatively, well, it's a new commission of a phase transition analyzer, all to unpick what happens to those molecules when they're put in that 50 kilogram per hour extruder. And that's what I think is really nice about the setup at University of Nottingham. We have these two sides, so we can unpick what's going on and produce products to see how it affects the quality, the microbial, the consumer, and also the digestibility. And I guess this is where some of my more fundamental research goes into more applied. This is where we've taken that knowledge of understanding those two polymers in starch to go, okay, starch is lovely, but we don't want to extract starch, that's more processes. We want to start processing ingredients with all their nutrients, with their fiber, with maybe their higher protein content in this, and see if we can get the same type of product. We can't at the moment, but we're applying that fundamental knowledge to maybe more of an applied area that's more useful for the industry. We're not limited to extrusion. That was just one example I wanted to show of how we link all our facilities. And as Seamus said, it's all about change. So one of the areas we really spend a lot of time in is new materials or new processes to structure food products. So I gave you the example of extrusion, but we work with baked products, ice cream. There's some high pressure here to create new ingredients, another ice cream example. So hopefully that will give you an overview of the facilities we have at Sutton Bonington, and also kind of an example of how we work to solve some of these research questions that Seamus introduced. And I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. One question, if I would be one of those SME businesses, how easy is it, or how would I approach you or your team to actually get access to those facilities?
So we have a team on site. I haven't got it on the slides, I probably should have, but obviously the slides have got my email address, so I can be a first point of call. Otherwise, of course, you can go through the University of Nottingham website and you can access our facilities. And we've also got a food and drink corporate partner in research and innovation. So there's various links, but for those of you on this call, you can contact me directly and I can direct you. or the website.
Can I just say, at the end of my presentation, I've got sort of just one email address that links you through to the KTP team, and we would be happy just to forward on any sort of inquiries to the relevant teams, or to Joe or to Seamus. So I will have that at the end. So if it's a case of just having one email, if people, so for people to note down, we can always pass those inquiries on if you don't have the contacts directly for Joe and for Seamus.
Okay, perfect. And that could be theoretically any UK or foreign company, or are you guys just purely Midlands restrained?
There's certain funding mechanisms for the Midlands, and then there's obviously certain funding mechanisms for a range of different companies. I think Seamus will agree with me, one of the fantastic things about Nottingham is we work with industry to make the package that suits you best. So we also have our food and drink corporate partner, and Dr. Meeta Loud, will also work with industry to find the right thing that solves a challenge that they're facing. We have various different options, but we're very flexible to just work best for the company, but also for ourselves, because this is what we enjoy doing.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker will be Rob, our past president of IAgrE. So quite an honor for me as a member to have him here today.
Oh,
yes.
come on.
Well, so yeah, Rob has been our past president. He is an engineer by background, and he is a consultant to Innovate UK. And I think today he's going to tell us a little bit more about the funding mechanisms and how things work. Okay.
Thanks very much, Daniel. I'm going to try and share my screen, but it's an absolute pleasure to be with you all here today, and hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Great. Okay, I'm going to try and share some slides. So is that working for everybody?
Yep.
Okay. I thought I'd start with a bit of a funny picture. We could really overthink this and talk about people communicating from different standpoints and different paradigms and all that kind of stuff, but I actually just quite like that picture. But I thought, just briefly, I'm going to say a little bit about what I do, because I think it's helpful to set some context. So I've been running an agritech consultancy now for about 8 years, and I am contracted to monitor a number of Innovate UK projects, and mostly they are collaborative R&D projects. We also look after quite a big funded project for CNH Industrial, who make New Holland tractors, and that is all about producing a tractor that can run on methane, and that's been quite a labour of love for the last 3.5 years now. We do some of our own horticultural research, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a sec. And I do a little bit of work on innovation policy. So monitoring successful Innovate UK projects is a really, really interesting role. I'm privileged to do what I do. On the one hand, you might describe me as a little bit of an R&D traffic warden, in that I am there to make sure that people are doing what they said they were going to do with public funds. And that is really, really important. But as a monitoring officer on these research programs, you are also there to try and make sure that people get the best from the funding that they've won. And so I've got a little bit of experience in that now, and that is certainly the backbone to the business activity here. I mentioned this New Holland methane tractor, and this is a really quite sizable project and involves a lot of herding of cats from the automotive sector. Really complex supply chains and really interesting value chain stuff about what we can do with underutilized resources like low quality methane on farms. And I mentioned some horticultural stuff that we do. We are becoming increasingly convinced after about 3 years work on this that there are some real massive sustainability issues to some of the growing practices for leafy greens and tomatoes and peppers and that kind of thing. And we've been working actively on replacing some of this mineral wool that is used in horticulture. So yeah, that's an ongoing thing. So that's enough about me. I am going to show you today some slides that have been very kindly given to me by Chris Danks. Chris was until fairly recently knowledge transfer manager at the KTN, and I guess most of you will have heard of the KTN or had some involvement. But KTN is a fantastic organisation that links people together and helps people find sources of funding and sources of competence that they might not have if they're wanting to drive their research in a particular direction. So the KTN is part of the Innovate UK family, and it's important that people understand that this is all really being driven by Bayes over here, but there is a progression here through UKRI, which obviously are dealing with the university sector, through the funding that is delivered into our sector by Innovate UK. And KTN exists really to help kind of bridge some of the gaps here and ensure that connections are made with organisations that can really help you push your research forward. It's all about, as Chris would say, it's all about making friends and influencing people. And I think this is a key point, that collaboration is good because it helps you do stuff more quickly. And it is about people coming in with different experience and different paradigms. So it's about people coming in from other sectors and sharing their expertise to help drive projects forward. And we're all seeing sensor technology from the automotive sector cross over into agri-tech. And indeed, there's huge crossover between food and agri-tech all the time. 42% of organisations report faster outcomes if they're involved with KTN. So KTN has quite a specific role. We have the research councils over here who are funding fundamental research, and we have private finance business over here funding commercialisation. If we look at moving along that TRL line, and we have Innovate here filling the gap in the middle. This is sometimes called the Valley of Death, and I'm sure that's a familiar slide to people. So there's, KTN have some specific roles in that, and I'm gonna pick the speed up a little bit because I'm conscious that this, we don't have all that much time. I'm gonna, if you guys want these slides, they will be available afterwards. So the sort of activity we've got here are research clubs. We've got lots going on in terms of encouraging partnerships to form here through funded work. And we've got lots of activity here, which is often financed privately. And, this is the zone you need to be in to be realizing real commercial benefit from your innovation, but also realizing those important social and economic benefits. So Innovate UK are aiming to fund things in this middle bit here between TRL 3 and TRL 7. And I think the bit that you'll want to hear about is stuff to do with how to put together a really compelling proposal. So good proposals obviously have to demonstrate innovation, strong business case, a credible R&D plan. They have to have the right consortium, and they need to demonstrate a clear need for support, i.e. this is too risky to happen without that kind of support. And obviously you need to be aligned with competition scope. All projects have got to show significant innovation. You've got to show how your project is commercially and scientifically innovative. Both of those, both of those things are equally important, and it will be either one or the other, and sometimes both. And to sort of provide evidence to people assessing your funding proposals, you will need to be you will need to be showing that you've done some kind of patent search, you've really looked into what your competitors are up to, and you've done some literature survey work. And you really do need to detail any background IP so that it's really clear to any assessor how it is you're going to commercialize this. So the really hopefully useful bit of information here, I think, are some of the tools that can help you put together a really compelling application. So there are some really good tools here that will allow you to scope things out and understand where the gaps are. And Gateway to Research will be something that's quite familiar to the academic folks on this call. And so that really helps you drill into what's already going on in a particular area. And actually, the search tool is really pretty specific. So if you stick soil in as a search term, it is pulling up really, a range of really quite appropriate projects that have been funded. And as you can see here, there's all sorts of filter tools that allow you to really drill into what work's already been done in a particular area. So as a first stop, this is a really good idea just to scope out what else has been done in your area of interest. The second thing I want to show you, and I'm blown away by this is a data visualization tool that Innovate UK have launched reasonably recently. The link is here on the slides, and it is just astonishing what that allows you to do. So it's it's a GIS type approach, and so you get a map with, these are businesses that have benefited from Innovate UK funding. And this is, you can drill down by region, you can drill down by themes, you can drill down by sector. And so if you are needing to perhaps encourage a commercial partner to do stuff with you, you could see if you can find some of their competitors on this tool, and maybe just gently point out that, look, your competitors are clearly benefiting from this kind of funded research. So it's a neat approach if you're struggling to persuade somebody that actually this is really worth doing. There is a third route, is to look through the public descriptions, which are available through DataViz, but if you go into drill down a little bit more, you can actually see what a project has told the world about what they are doing, and that again will help you understand whether or not you're operating in a whether you have freedom to operate, whether your idea is likely to be novel enough to be funded. So there's a really great example here that Chris has put together about Berry Gardens growers. Anybody in the agri-tech space will know that Berry Gardens are a big player in the UK soft fruit industry. I know that this particular slide has been used to persuade their competitors that maybe they should be considering doing a little bit more in the way of funded research, because sometimes businesses feel that research is not for them, and they are happy to coattail. Well, actually, if they understood what some of their competitors are doing, and this is the kind of stuff that is going to make us internationally competitive, by the way, this is getting small businesses to understand the importance of this really is critical. I think this is a super tool. So I'm really pleased to be able to share with you a little bit about what that can do for you. As you can see, there's quite a lot of detail, and I'm conscious of time today. So, but yeah, this is possibly something that you might want to dig into at your leisure. So hallmarks of a good proposal: a strong business case. So those three tools I've just outlined will help you put together a strong business case, because you can see where the gaps are, and you really do need to quantify the return on investment and describe your route to market. Those are the really key points there. Here's a quick consortia costing example, and I'm not going to go into this in detail. Many of you will be familiar with this, but the key point here is that SMEs tend to be funded at a greater percentage than medium and large businesses. And you can see here how you would build up the budget for a multi-partner collaborative R&D project. One thing that is the case at the moment, and I know might be a source of frustration to some of the academics on the call, is that in general, the research base cannot exceed 30% of the total eligible costs. Hence why I've just explained some of the tools that you might want to deploy if you're trying to encourage recalcitrant industrial partners to engage with this kind of thing. Credible plan for R&D is going to be needed, and the point here is that very often the development bit is often forgotten. There's really very often projects are hugely research focused and don't give themselves enough time to do the development work that would be needed ahead of commercialization. But there are some really helpful bullet points here. Good reference if you're writing a proposal. You need to think about wider impact, and this really is critical and reflects back what Seamus was saying just now. What is influencing your future market? Horizons need to be really considered here. And there is a neat tool here, the link's on the slide, that will help you test your strategy. I think that's quite a useful thing. So it gives you a bit of a better understanding of the market opportunity, and it will help you understand who to partner with, what the big risks are, and what financial support you really need. The right consortium really is critical in putting together funding proposals. Why particularly these partners? What makes this a particularly strong consortium? Do you have global markets in mind? You really can't afford to have any passengers. Are you going to have subcontractors or full-blown partners? Are you going to have cross-sector partnerships between one sector and another? Are you going to involve end users? All of those things strengthen an application. Many end users actually are sole traders, micro partnerships, and there are special rules for people not operating a PAYE scheme that just make it a little bit easier for them. You can see what the conditions are here. You need to demonstrate a clear need for support. So this is, why are you not funding this yourself? Have you really explained how the project would be undertaken differently with Innovate UK investment? So, you need to show that you've got a realistic prospect of success, but sufficient uncertainty that there's still a need for R&D. All about measuring risk. Funders recognise that these kinds of projects are inherently risky. There needs to be some risk in there, otherwise it's not worth funding. But you do need to be able to show that you're mitigating all of those risks really effectively. So you need a decent risk register. Everybody's familiar with how to do this, but it's all about smart mitigations. A few quick fundamental points. I'm conscious of time. Is this a big enough market? Does it represent value for money compared to the investment requested? So for example, would a 10% market share give you a return to justify the grant value that you're asking Innovate for? And that's a really important point. Fundamental 2 is, can this innovation be world leading? Is it sufficiently distinctive and strong to be successfully exploited in the UK and globally? If you really cannot buy it elsewhere at a reasonably comparable cost or get it from a consultancy, and those are the things you need to show. Fundamental 3, are you at the right stage of development? It's got to be market driven rather than predominantly a research project. And do you have a customer in mind for your solution? Or are they already a partner in the application? And if not, why not? And I think that's really important. And fundamental 4 is, why the heck should public funds be being thrown at you to do this? Why not just use VC investment or a bank loan? So yeah, you need to think about that. The risk register needs to be strong enough to support things It really can't just be a paper exercise that shows everything looking neat and tidy. You really do need to address the uncomfortable bits when you're putting a risk register together. So a few quick general tips. Agree key points of your collaboration agreements before you waste loads of time on things that won't fly. There's some good toolkits here. Some useful bullet points. Most important one here, I think, is do not assume your assessors who are going to be reviewing your proposal are experts in your subject. Evidence, evidence, evidence every time if you can. Stress the added value of funding and the excellent value for money. Explain the financing. For goodness sake, check all your deadlines before you apply. Start the process as quick as you can. Do not leave it to the last minute, because we've all, just don't. Most important, you have got to take those assessors with you on your journey. You have got to excite them about your brilliant idea. You've got to inspire them so that they really want this to be funded. Getting there now, guys. General tips 3, quick. There's a really helpful, good application guide. Nice link there. Thoroughly recommend you having a look at that. KTN are around to help on project scope and eligibility. Please, guys, though, give them time to read stuff. If you get near to the end of if you get near to deadline, the folks at KTN are absolutely avalanched with people asking their advice. The quicker you get in, the better. You can read these key points for yourselves, and I'm sure most of you already have. But I would encourage you to reach out to them. There are some really good LinkedIn groups out there. You may well be aware of that anyway. And the last thing I wanted to share with you was KTN's Agri-Food Landscape page. If you aren't aware of that, that is a really, really useful resource. So I'd like to say thanks again to Chris Danks, because like I said, these are Chris's slides and I've tried to do them justice quickly, but you'll have this as a resource to dip back into. Here are some contact details for me if you should need them. Thank you very much for your attention, folks.
Thank you, Rob. We got a question in from Adam Plum from the Douglas Bomford Trust. So he's asking, do you have any links with the IAgrE Food Charities Partnership?
Personally, I would probably pick up the phone to Alan if I need to.
Right, yeah, because we all know the trust, yeah.
I mean, AFCP is potentially a source of really useful funding, and the things they fund need to be strategic, but yeah, Alan has identified something quite useful there, and I think possibly what Alan is suggesting is maybe there should be some sort of link between maybe KTN and AFCP. I'm not sure if that's quite what he means, but I don't see why that wouldn't be a really good idea. And I think in general, people need to be aware of what AFCP are up to.
The question I, of course, want to have answered, what is the succession rate of application? I mean, I know Innovate UK is very competitive and painful. We lost a couple of times.
Yeah. No, that hurts when you lose one, particularly if you think it's a really, really well-argued case. What you've got to bear in mind is that there are 5 assessors that you are trying to persuade, and they won't necessarily all get what you are talking about. They won't necessarily get your brilliant idea. It's obviously really frustrating if you spend a lot of time on an application and it's not funded. I don't know what the actual rate is. I know it is very competitive. So it's, it's a little bit worse than a 50-50 chance. So you really do have to make sure that your application is the one that stands out.
But it is great because, I mean, when we applied back then with our university partner, we weren't even aware of those tools you showed. Okay. I mean, I genuinely have to say this. So fingers crossed for next time.
Yeah, I think there's some really helpful stuff that Chris has shared with me to share with you. So yeah, good. Well, I'm pleased that I'm glad you think that might be useful. Shall I stop sharing my screen at that point?
Yes, please. So thank you, Rob. And our last speaker will be Nicola Moules, also from Nottingham University. And she will talk us through the funding support through KTN.
Hello, thank you, Daniel. My name is Nicola Moules. I'm from the University of Nottingham, from the KTP team, and my role is to support businesses to engage and collaborate with the university. So I'm trying to share my screen. So hopefully everybody can see that that main screen that says working with the University of Nottingham.
No.
Not yet, Nicola.
Not yet.
Sorry.
Not yet. So, right, let me go back to there. Share. I didn't click share.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's it, Nicola. You're in presentation mode, though, if you want to put it full present.
is that what can you see now?
We're seeing your slideshow in presentation mode, as distinct to actual big slides. If that makes sense.
Slideshow.
Yeah.
All right, because I
think you've just shared the wrong screen, Nicola. I think you just want to share the other one. So if you go back to share screen again, pick the one that just shows the full slide, and then you'll be able to see your view, but we'll be able to see the big slide view.
Any good? No?
No, you see, you're sharing the wrong screen of yours. You've got two screens, and you're sharing the secondary screen, not the first screen.
Yeah, that's
So
all
if you go back to share screen again.
Share screen.
And then you can choose which screen you share. And that, so go back to share screen.
Share
and then
screen.
You need to choose the one with the big picture on it, not the little ones.
Right, let me put it onto slideshow there. No. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, everybody. I thought I'd got this completely sussed.
It's the pressure of live performance. You're fine.
So I've got slideshow.
So whichever screen you should, when you press the share screen picture, and you should be presented with a number of options of which of your many screens you can share.
Yeah.
And you just need to click on the one that doesn't show your notes, but just shows the main picture.
Oh, apologies for this. I think they all show my notes.
In that case, you just need to go to slideshow.
There. Is that
yes,
better?
Perfect.
That's it. 100%, Nicola.
Right. So now I need to get back. Bear with me a second then.
Could you possibly reintroduce yourself, Nicola, so we can cut that bit out as well? Okay, thank you.
Oh, yes, that'll be very slick. Thank you. Right. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. I shall try and whiz through this as quickly as I can because I know we're under time pressure now. My name's Nicola Moules. I'm from the KTP team at the University of Nottingham. My role is to support business engagement and collaborate to enable businesses to collaborate with the university. You've heard a lot about the research and what's available at the university, and I'll be providing you with an overview of the variety of ways that businesses can engage with us. At the end, there'll be an opportunity to ask questions, so please feel free to post any questions on the chat or hold up your hand at the end of the presentation. So the University of Nottingham has a long-standing reputation for transformative world-class research and a pioneering spirit, as expressed in the vision of our founder, Sir Jesse Boot. We have a strong tradition for knowledge exchange, and it's firmly established as a key feature of the research life cycle and everything we do. So this is a lovely quote from Jesse Boot, and it shows that our philosophy for external engagement is at the heart of the university. You've heard much about the impact of some of our work in food and drink, and I'm going to provide you with a few ways where you can engage with that technology and research. So we can help you to improve or enhance your business processes, develop a new product, improve productivity, or tap into innovative ideas with a fresh perspective. We're uniquely positioned to support your business as we operate across the full food and drink supply chain, as you've heard already. So one of the ways to work with us is to make the most of our student talent. So we're always looking to create new partnerships with business and offer opportunities ranging from year-long placements to short-term summer internships. Specialist placements and career staff can work with a range of companies and large corporations or SMEs to help employers find the right students for their business needs. So recruiting sharp minds can help bring a fresh thinking and insight into your business. Our students are highly sought by some of the world's top companies and innovative startups and third sector organisations. So there's a range of ways we can engage with you. So we have specialist teams for each of these that can help find you the right person. So developing your workforce. So you might look to see what training there is for your workforce, and we can offer a broad range of training programs that could be tailor-made, specialist courses, bespoke courses, specifically designed to support you throughout learning experience. So CPD can create bespoke training, education designed to broaden the abilities and advance the careers of your most promising talent within your company. We have degree apprenticeships, the programs designed with employers to help create a highly skilled workforce. And we also offer the agri-food training partnership. So the university has built a strong reputation for the quality and impact of its collaborative work. We work with businesses across the world, as you've heard, and our academic and research staff are working to develop new ideas and technologies, many of which have opportunities for commercial application. Academics can bring a whole new level of expertise to business projects, whether it's using our kit for testing or partnering with us on a collaborative R&D grant. We're able to support you. And you've heard a lot about collaborative R&D from Rob just now. So other ways of working are licensing technology or forming commercialization from new ideas that have been developed by the university. Consultancy, where we can find the right consultant to support any little shorter pieces of work. And we have Nottingham University consultants that can handle all of that for you. There's licensing and spin-outs, and as well as that, we have opportunity for services rendered, so that's using our kit to do some testing, using our facilities at a contract rate. But we also offer business networking and partner programs, which gives industry partners access to innovation, talent and connections, and opportunity for networking. And then there's the Knowledge Transfer Partnership Programme, which is what I'm now going to expand upon. So you've heard a lot from Rob about the KTN and Innovate UK, and KTP is one of that family of funding schemes that sits within Innovate UK and is supported by the KTN. So funded by Innovate UK and the Research Councils, KTP is a nationwide scheme that's been around for 45 years this year. The majority of the UK's universities participate in KTP. And at Nottingham, we have an experienced team of 5 people dedicated to supporting businesses with their KTP projects. KTP is very much a 3-way partnership. The scheme has a proven track record to help businesses to grow by linking them with an academic partner and a graduate. So the academic partner, the business and the associate forms that 3-way partnership. A KTP enables a business to bring in new skills and the latest academic thinking to deliver a specific strategic project that is innovative and supported by the knowledge base. It brings together businesses that have a gap in their knowledge and capability, which is being a barrier to growth. With a knowledge base that has the knowledge and expertise, and the graduate as the third part of the partnership, known as the associate, who is employed to transfer that knowledge. So how does it work? For this particular scheme, the government funding is 67% grant rate for SMEs and 50% for large businesses. So there's no sort of variation. It's either qualifies an SME, 67% grant rate, or 50% for large businesses. But that goes across a group. So you might have one company that is independently operating, but they're part of a larger group. If that group counts as a large business, then even though that company might be an SME, they will be still counted as a large business. Projects last between 12 months and 3 years and should be strategic to your business, providing innovative solutions to address your business challenges. We will work with you to identify the right team of academics based on your project requirements. Once funded, we then jointly recruit a high caliber graduate, which I've said is known as the associate, who will be based at your business. So they will be located with you at your company premises. The associate will manage the project and acts as a conduit to the transfer of the knowledge from the university. The associate will have weekly catch-ups with our academics and ensure that the project remains on track. And the senior contact of your company will be involved throughout to ensure that the company commercial focus and the delivery of your business case is paramount. So to be eligible for KTP, KTP is open to all businesses in the UK of any size and not-for-profit organisations as well. So we work across the board with micro companies, SMEs and large businesses. They can be of internationally owned, but they have to be a UK trading organisation, so paying their taxes to the UK government. Business must be profitable and demonstrate affordability. It's important that you have the capacity to absorb and embed that new knowledge and demonstrate senior management commitment to the project, because in order to enhance that change within the business, it's important that you've got senior management buy-in. So is my project a KTP? So Rob has already talked quite a lot about what qualifies for KTP and what's important. So qualifies for R&D collaborative grants and funding from the KTN, and the same applies to KTP. So KTP needs to be very business-led, very business-focused. The assessors are looking for innovation that is strategic and relevant and aligns with the business growth plans. Projects can be about developing new products, technologies or processes, and they're assessed on their innovation, impact and challenge. So a strong business case is required, impact needs to be fully demonstrated, and that can also be not just financial impact, that is obviously key, but also benefits to society, the environmental culture. Projects should be challenging to the business and to the knowledge partners, and there should be clear, quantifiable benefits for the business and the other partners. There are lots of significant benefits from KTP. Builds a long-term strategic relationship with the university partner. It transfers and embeds new capability, new skills within the business that enables you to grow and further develop new products or processes. Because it's government funded and it's at the sort of research elements of it, it is eligible for R&D tax credits, and that's important for every business. KTPs are, apologies for that, just moved on. KTPs are responsive and very business focused, and they support you in the recruitment of the right people, which are your future business leaders. So unfortunately, I don't have time to run through examples of the KTPs that we have done within the food and beverage sector, but this is a small selection of some of our current projects, which sort of are of interest, I think, to you. The KTP scheme is unique in that it can bring together a number of academics from different research disciplines and backgrounds to work in one project. So KTPs are well suited to addressing business challenges in not only food engineering and food science, which is what you've been hearing about today, but also in sort of improving and focusing on things like energy and sustainability, management practices, information technology, life sciences, whatever they might be. That all fits within the KTP portfolio. So costs, the KTP costs are, these are typical. So each cost is sort of, I'm giving here as indicative and not actual, because we will cost each project individually, and it depends on the requirement for travel and equipment and consumables. But an average cost, typical cost, is around about £30,000 a year for an SME and about £45,000 a year for a large organisation. Now that is a cash contribution by the company, and the total cost to the business also cover employing the associate, the academic time for half a day a week for supervision and support of the associates, overheads to allow the business access to the university resources, the facilities and the people to support the project, and a small budget towards associate training development, travel and consumables. I'm not going to run through the details of the application process. The takeaway message is that we're an experienced KTP team at Nottingham, and will support you through the whole process, from the early discussions through to the recruitment of the associate and also to the project completion. We've got an excellent track record of success for approval and project delivery, and I do know the success rate for KTPs. It was published just a week or so ago. So over the course of this past year and the 5 competitions that we've had, the average success rate has been 76% of those projects that have been submitted and awarded funding. At Nottingham, we've got a good track record, an excellent track record, and our success rate is probably around about 90%. And the success rate is high for KTP because not only do you have the full support of the university and the KTP team in really ensuring that your project fits the scope and that we get the best in the application form, but it's also because we work very closely with a KT advisor who is employed by the KTN, and they will support the application process all the way through. And then when it's approved, they support the project as well and act as a mentor. So the key question is now, how can we help you? And to contact us if you want to find out more, then as I mentioned when Joe had just finished presenting, that one email address comes through to the KTP team, but we can forward on any inquiries directly to Joe or to Seamus or to any of the direct teams that you might be interested in, if it's placements or consultancy or whatever it might be. And then I've included the web link to a PDF of our agri-food capability brochure, which is sort of a really strong comprehensive guide of our capabilities in food and drink at Nottingham. It was published a couple of years ago, so there may be elements that might be a little out of date, but I think in the main it will give you an excellent overview of our full capabilities at the university. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. I shall take it off slideshow and well, I shall try and take it off slideshow and see if there are any questions that anybody has.
Thank you, Nicola. I have one question while you still have the slide on. On the bottom left, it says the European Regional Development Fund.
Yes.
Since we guys reaching the end game of Brexit, most likely.
Yes.
The partnership may continue, or?
Let me just, am I sharing? No, have I stopped sharing?
Yes, you stopped sharing.
Yeah, I have. Thank you. We have at the university, we have had a number of ERDF projects, European funded projects, into the university, and part of their outcomes have been KTPs. So because they have had targets for building relationships with businesses and targets for KTP, that has meant that we've had that support to fund some people in by ERDF, and that's why I put the logo on. KTP is not ERDF funded. it is funded by Innovate UK and UKRI. So no, there is no change to funding at all going forward.
Okay, thank you. My other question, can companies also form a consortium together and apply for KTP funding, or is it a one-to-one basis?
Generally, it is on a one-to-one basis. So there is a lead university partner and there is a lead company partner. That doesn't mean to say that the company partner might then work as a consortium with other businesses, maybe in their supply chain. But no, there has to be one key company partner. So it is just a sort of the two key partners there plus the associate. The associate is employed by the university, but they work at the sort of the business partner. So they have to have somewhere where they are based, somewhere that is supervising them, and where they're embedding and transferring that knowledge to. That doesn't mean to say that onward from there the knowledge can be shared and transferred to other companies, but there is just one main partner. We have had examples of where we have worked with the British Beet Research Organisation and I won't say the pea growers, I don't think that's it, it's not quite pea growers, research organisations, and they are the host partner, the lead partner for the KTP, but they do that for the benefit of their members.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't get any other questions in, so thank you very much, everyone.